Hello everyone, let's dive straight into Agentic Workflows. The technical documentation defines an agentic workflow as an iterative design pattern where an AI agent decomposes a complex goal into subtasks, reasons through the execution of those tasks, and uses tools to achieve a final outcome. In plain everyday English, it is the difference between a dumb robot and a smart assistant. Think about the old way we used AI. You would ask it to write an email and it would just spit out text. That is a one-shot process. But an agentic workflow is more like hiring a real person. If you ask a smart assistant to plan a business trip, they don't just give you a list of hotels. They check your calendar, they look for flights, they compare prices, and they even check the weather at your destination to remind you to pack an umbrella. Stay with me here because the AI is no longer just responding, it is acting. You've probably seen this at the office where you have a standard automated flow that breaks the moment something tiny changes. Let's break this down together. Agentic workflows allow the AI to think and pivot when things don't go exactly to plan. So now that we've mastered the idea that an agent is a thinker and not just a talker, you might be wondering what powers this ability to make independent decisions. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is autonomous logic and reasoning. This brings us to autonomous logic. The formal definition describes autonomous logic as the ability of a system to perform tasks and make decisions without continuous human intervention by utilizing self-correcting algorithms and feedback loops. To speak naturally, it is giving the AI a brain and a compass. It means the AI can look at its own work and say, wait, that doesn't look right. Let me try again. Imagine a dummy example of a customer service agent. In the old world, if a customer asked for a refund but didn't provide an order number, the system would just give an error message. Beep, error. But an agent with autonomous logic says, oh, the order number is missing. Let me look up this customer's email address in our database to find their last 3 orders so I can ask them which one they want to refund. It takes the initiative. You've probably seen this at the office when you give a task to a new intern. You don't want to tell them every single mouse click. You want them to figure out the middle steps on their own. Let's break this down together. Autonomous logic is the problem-solving engine inside the app. So now that we've mastered the concept of the AI figuring out the middle steps by itself, you might be wondering how the AI actually switches between different tasks like searching a database and sending an email. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is task decomposition and planning. This brings us to a very cool concept called reflection. The technical documentation defines this as a pattern where an agent evaluates its own output or reasoning against a set of criteria and iterates on the result to improve quality and accuracy. In plain language, it is the AI checking its own homework. This is what makes intelligent apps actually intelligent. Think of a dummy example where you ask an AI to write a piece of computer code. In a basic workflow, it just gives you the code and hopes it works. In an agentic workflow, the agent writes the code, then reflects by saying, does this code follow our security rules? Actually, I see a potential bug here. Let me rewrite line 5 to make it safer. It argues with itself to get you a better answer. You've probably seen this at the office when you write a draft of an important email, then you read it over and think, that sounds a bit too aggressive. Let me soften the tone. Let's break this down together. Reflection turns the AI into a quality control inspector for its own brain. So now that we've mastered how the AI catches its own errors and improves itself, you might be wondering how the AI actually reaches out and touches other systems to get things done. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is tool use and external capability integration. Now we need to talk about task decomposition. A standard academic explanation says this is the process of breaking down a high-level goal into smaller, manageable and executable steps that can be handled by specific models or tools. In simple everyday English, it's just making a to-do list. Even the smartest AI can't do a giant project in one giant leap. It has to break it down. Imagine a dummy example of a marketing agent. You give it one goal: launch a social media campaign for our new shoes. The agent doesn't just panic, it decomposes the task. Step 1. Analyze the shoe's features. Step 2. Research what competitors are doing. Step 3. Write 3 different captions. Step 4. Find the best time to post. Stay with me here because the planning part is where the AI decides the order of those steps. You've probably seen this at the office during a big project kickoff where everyone is overwhelmed until someone writes the steps on a whiteboard. Let's break this down together. Decomposition is how the AI takes a scary big request and turns it into a series of easy wins. So, now that we've mastered how the AI creates its own checklist for success, you might be wondering what happens when the AI finishes a step and realizes it made a mistake. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is reflection and self-correction patterns. Let's dive into tool use. The formal definition describes this as the ability of an agent to autonomously select and invoke external APIs, functions, or software tools to retrieve information or perform actions in the physical or digital world. To put it very simply, it is giving the AI a tool belt. An AI brain is great at talking, but it can't see your live bank balance or send a real calendar invite unless we give it tools. Imagine a dummy example of a booking agent. It can reason that you need a flight, but it needs a travel API tool to actually see the prices. It needs an Outlook tool to see your free time. Stay with me here, because the agent decides which tool to use and when. It's like a handyman coming to your house. You tell him the sink is leaking, and he decides whether to use a wrench or a screwdriver. You don't have to hand him the wrench. You've probably seen this at the office when you use a connector in the Power Platform. That is basically a tool waiting for an agent to pick it up. Let's break this down together. Tools are the hands of the agentic workflow. So now that we've mastered how the AI uses its tool belt to interact with the world, you might be wondering how we make sure it doesn't accidentally do something crazy or spend too much money. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is human in the loop and governance. Finally, we reach human in the loop. This governance framework involves integrating human intervention points into autonomous workflows to provide oversight, validation, and final decision-making authority. In our relaxed classroom tone, it simply means the supervisor. Even though the AI is smart and has its own checklist, we don't want it to buy a $10,000 airplane ticket without asking us first. We create checkpoints. Imagine a dummy example where an agent is processing insurance claims. It can do all the research, check the policy, and even write the approval letter. But before that letter is sent, it pops up on a human screen and says, "Here is what I've done and why. Do you approve?" You've probably noticed at the office how much better you feel when a smart tool says, "I've prepared this for you. Please review it." Let's break this down together. We want the AI to be an agent, not an outlaw. We provide the direction, and the agent provides the execution. We've looked at the shift from simple response to agentic action, the autonomous brain that solves problems, the checklist of task decomposition, the self-correction of reflection, the tool belt for real action, and the supervisor's role in governance. We've mastered the concept of agentic workflows. Well, that brings us right into our next chapter.